entertainment. Find out what's happening in Highland Park from the city's movers and shakers. Get in the know with Marley B. Monday mornings at 10, right here on WHPR. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of W33BY, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to your very own TV show right here in Highland Park, Michigan. Get in the know. I am your host, Marley Blackman. Marley B, that's me. And as always, we have a great show lined up for you today. We have our wonderful, honorable Mayor Hubert Yap that's joining us. He's going to be talking about some underground infrastructure, the water department, our school board, reactivating our school system, and some things that happened over the weekend as well. So you feel free to call in at any time to chime in on the conversation at 313-868-0342. Again, that's 313-868-0342. We also have joining us today Mr. Brandon Bryce. He's a political strategist, and he's a Republican. And you'll know why I said that once you see him and meet him. He's been on the show before, and we're going to just talk a little bit about politics and his views on the world. So stay tuned in, stay locked in, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to your very own TV show, Get in the Know. I am your host, Marley Blackman. Marley B, that's me. I am also the City of Highland Park's press secretary, your press secretary, and I'm here for anything that you may need or ever want. You can always call us at 313-868-0342. Today we have joining us our wonderful Mayor Hubert Yap. How are you today, sir? Good morning.
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Where's the coffee? Did you bring coffee this morning?
No,
Or was that my job?
I was running a little late today.
Oh, okay. So was I. But we're here, right?
Absolutely.
It was a long weekend.
Absolutely.
Long weekend in Highland Park. As you all know, like today, this weekend, was it Saturday? Was it Saturday evening?
Saturday.
So the senior citizens apartment building caught a fire in one of the units, and the entire building had to be evacuated. Correct?
Absolutely.
And what's the name of the
Bishop Moore.
Bishop Moore?
Fourth
Okay.
floor.
Fourth floor. So the entire apartment building had to be evacuated. And as I was explaining to the property managers yesterday, as I had to go over there and meet with them with Lieutenant Edwards, cities don't normally evacuate a building and then house people when
Well,
there's
you
a
know,
fire. So that's great. Kudos to you for doing that, sir.
This is Highland Park. We come together.
Yes.
We look out for each other.
Yeah.
So we did get the folk housed in the rec center, and we had Red Cross and a number of other entities assisting to feed them and make them as comfortable as possible, while you, Jamil, both chiefs, dealt with the owners of the building
Yeah.
to get them located in an area where they get better services like showers and so forth. So
Yes.
they're in the hotels now.
Yes, they are. Thank God. Right?
I agree.
Thank God for your team.
Well, I always keep a good team, you know. You know.
All right, so that's good because Red Cross stepped up. They
Absolutely.
brought in cots and blankets, and I know Saturday evening, myself and my son, we were feeding them hot dogs and like to 1 o'clock in the morning, and then yesterday some people stepped up and brought in breakfast, lunch, and dinner again.
Absolutely.
And then so after dinner, they were able to go to a hotel provided by the Bishop Moore Apartment Management Company. And so, I mean, it's just great people. That's what makes a great city. Just people stepping up and showing their love and care for individuals, because I don't know another city that would do that. It's not the city's responsibility to house people after a fire.
I agree. As a matter of fact, Highland Park's been like that. You remember we housed them during I think we had the big flood, and we housed folks. We have to stick together, and that's the one thing I have always kept from Dr. King's speech. The brothers and sisters up north got to learn to stick together.
Yeah, you
And
definitely
that's what
do.
we do in Highland Park is we stick together.
All right, so tell us what's going on. You're on your show. I always want to remind people that this is your platform to communicate to the residents of Highland Park about what's going on. And we try to give you guys the information that you want to know, you need to know. So what's happening in Highland Park? What do you like to share today?
Well, first of all, I'm a believer that in order to sell a city, you got to clean it up.
That's right.
And so our DPW is doing a great job. They have new equipment, and we are pushing the alleys. If you are a resident of Highland Park, you know for approximately 30 years, our alleys were impassable. You couldn't get through the alleys, the emergency equipment. So now we got the equipment to push the alleys.
Yes.
And the primary purpose for that is we're doing some infrastructure work underground, a lot of repairs. We got water pipes.
Yep.
In fact, I was told by one of the engineers that some of our water pipes are wooden pipes.
They are.
You know,
they
so-
are. They go back a long, long time ago, and so they're being replaced right now, correct?
Absolutely. As
Okay.
a matter of fact, when I came in office in January of 2016,
Uh-huh.
we had a number of water main breaks. And a water main break is anywhere from $18,000 to $25,000 per. So we're
Repair.
losing a lot of money.
Yes.
And now we're getting the underground structures, infrastructure repaired. And the ultimate objective is to reopen our water system so we can say so in the rates that we charge. At this point, we're with the Great Lakes Water Authority, and we have no input when they increase the rates. So
Yeah.
we're working diligently to make Highland Park a better place to live. And I'm also proud of Mr. Kevin Smith, the emergency manager for the school system,
Okay.
and Mrs. Ramsey, Alexis Ramsey, who's the school board president. I'm proud of the work that they're doing to bring our school system back to Highland Park.
Okay.
We really do need that school system. There's so many things that the chief of police and I have talked about with our teenagers in the city of Highland Park, getting them involved in politics. We look at the children around the country. Unfortunately, the shooting in Florida, the young folk are coming together. And
They
I'm
are.
glad to see that. And we need to pick that up and get our young folk involved in our government.
Yeah, I agree. So let's back up a little bit about getting the city together so people can want to live, work, and play here, right? So the infrastructure is definitely important. What are we doing above ground to make people want to live, work, and play in Highland Park?
Well, we sent out an RFQ a while back, and we're getting responses to that.
Yeah.
But we've been getting proposals from walk-in developers all along. And what we do, I call this time our infant stages.
Yeah.
We're starting all over, so we have to vet these programs. If you were familiar with Highland Park many years ago, we had a place, North Point, up near Sneffcamp's dealership. They started a project there, and it turned out to be blight. And therefore, that blight had to be removed, so I had to find demolition money. So at this point, we're vetting our proposals to make sure they got the funding from start to finish. You know, so
Is that what happened with North Point? They ran out of money and they couldn't complete the project?
from what I understand, the man with the money ran out, and they're still looking for him.
Okay. All right. So
So-
we don't want to have that here in Highland Park. We want the next big project that, you know, that comes aboard in Highland Park. They can start the job, finish the job. It's beautiful and people are happy, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. So so that's the housing part of it. What about retail and entertainment? What are we doing in those areas?
Well, again, we have proposals, and when we're at this point, I don't want to get into details about the proposals.
Okay.
I like to make sure that we
I
get
respect
the
that.
shovel in the ground.
Yeah, we got to break ground first. I agree.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, but we do have some things that's coming aboard as far as entertainment, nightlife a little bit, right? Restaurants.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there's a project right there at Connecticut and Woodward.
Okay.
Gentleman started a restaurant, a bar there. There's a Tuxedo in Woodward. As you're going south,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful structure there
Yeah.
at the corner of Tuxedo and Woodward. We got other projects that should be coming to fruition very soon. So
Okay. All right. So the big thing when you came into office in 2016, and then when you brought me aboard mid 2016, the big thing was water. We were dealing with the water plant. We were dealing with GLEWA. We were dealing with a lawsuit. Where are we right now with the lawsuit?
Well, I can say that our legal team has really done a great job of convincing the higher courts that we need to take a look at this.
Okay.
Initially, the evidence that was available was not presented. Now we have an attorney from California. We have a number of attorneys from here, our city attorney, and our state administrator. They've managed to get this back on the docket, and we're still in the fight, and it looks pretty good.
Okay. Good. What does that mean for our residents? Our residents have nothing to worry about because you're fighting the good fight to make sure that those dollars are not trickled down to them, correct, as much as you possibly can? Because
Well,
you know that's the big question: is how would that affect us in our water bill?
if our attorneys had not been so diligent, the state would have levied a $26 million debt on our residents, and that would have been disastrous. Most of our residents would probably have left their homes. But this fight is to preserve our community, and we
Yes.
want to get that debt settled, or at least bring it to a point where we can handle it without taxing the citizens.
Okay.
Now, there's a situation that they probably don't know about, but Highland Park since 1986 has been paying stormwater runoff debts for the state of Michigan. For example, Woodward Avenue, that's a state road. We have been paying stormwater runoff, and what that means is it's sewer. That water, the rainwater goes into the system, that's
Yes.
sewer.
Yeah.
So we're charged for that, and the monies that our engineers came up with since 1986 was about $26 to $28 million that the state owes Highland Park. So what we tried to do was make a deal to offset,
Yes.
but the state, Governor Snyder, wouldn't do it. So we're in the fight, and we're in it to win it.
All right. So, Mr. Mayor, you have such a compassionate heart when it comes to the residents of Highland Park. You do things above and beyond what any other mayor that I know would do for residents in the community. Is that because you were born here, you born and raised here, or is it just because that's just how you are as a mayor and you give back? Because I don't know another mayor that does what you do. Can you explain that to me? Where's that compassion come from?
I think it's a combination of both. I grew up here.
People know where you live, that you don't want them knocking on your door.
Well, after serving 31 and a half years here as a police officer, police manager, I got to know the people. We have some fine people in this city.
Yes.
And I know that there are some needs here. There are people that are barely making it.
Yes.
So I'm always available to try to assist in any way I can.
Yeah.
That's me by nature, I guess.
All right. Well, wonderful. We're glad to have you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our wonderful Mayor Hubert Yap. We're going to close out with him and talk about the town hall meeting that that was scheduled for March the 1st that we had to reschedule due to weather. And so we'll talk about that and possibly when it could possibly be rescheduled. So stay tuned in, stay locked in, and we'll be right back.
Tune in every Monday morning at 10 for Get in the Know with host Marley B, providing the city of Highland Park news, information, and entertainment. Find out what's happening in Highland Park from the city's movers and shakers. Get in the Know with Marley B, Monday mornings at 10, right here on WHPR. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of W33BY, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
And welcome back to your very own TV show, Get in the Know. I am your host, Marley Blackman. Marley B, that's me. And I'm also your press secretary for the city of Highland Park. And I am having a wonderful job serving you. Today we have our wonderful Mayor Hubert Yap on with us. And we're just talking about the city and what we're doing in the city. Sir, what's the status of the city now?
Well, we're in a developmental mode. Without development, Highland Park can't make it. We got to have that tax base.
Yes.
And as I stated earlier, there's over 200,000 transit people coming through Highland Park every day.
Traveling down Woodward,
Bumper
correct?
to bumper
Yep.
going south in the morning and bumper to bumper going north
out of here,
in
yep.
the evening. Absolutely.
I agree.
So among those folks, there are people that want to invest. They're looking at Highland Park. I'm a realtor, and during my C&E classes, Highland Park is the conversation. So we want to clean up our city, make our city inviting, and promote it.
Okay.
Make people want to move here because we have the land, we have the housing stock, and come see us.
All right, wonderful. And then, so, this is all over. It's in Bloomfield Hills, it's in Birmingham, it's in Detroit, it's wherever, East, Sterling Heights. We're all dealing with potholes. I was in a meeting, Macomb County meeting last week, and I mean, they have them really bad. Up and down Gratiot Avenue by Macomb Mall, it's like, I don't even know what third world country over there as far as the potholes are concerned. It's like your car is going to be swallowed up by the pothole. We have some here in Highland Park. They're not as bad as other cities. What are we doing about those?
Well, we're asking the state to allocate some of that emergency pothole money to Highland Park.
Can I stop you right quick, sir?
Certainly.
So to my understanding, the state normally, when it comes to that, they kind of select different cities. They reach out to them. Why aren't they reaching out to us? Well, how do we get on their radar for them to reach out to us and say, hey, we have this money. We want to, and these are the terms and these are the things you need to do to be able to get the money to fix the potholes. Why aren't they doing that, and how can we get on their radar for that?
You would think they would use that democratic way of doing things.
Okay.
But in this instance, I was listening to 950, and I heard them identify certain cities.
Exactly.
Detroit, Dearborn, and other cities. We have the same problems. We're a smaller city, and the problems are probably to a lesser degree. But most generally, there's a chain of command. You go city, county, state, federal.
Yes.
And at this point, I've contacted my state rep. I've contacted Mr. Evans and Ward Evans in Wayne County.
Yeah.
And I've contacted the state.
Yeah.
We have to get out early because most generally Highland Park is overlooked. We have to fend for ourselves.
We have to change that.
Absolutely, we have to change it. And you know how you change that, of course.
Through the media.
Elected officials at the polls.
Through the media.
Yeah, the media, and when you go to the
We've tried
polls.
the elected official part. We've done that. That's not working out too well.
Well, we got to keep pushing because I'm telling you, we need help. Highland Park is a beautiful city, and with a little help from the state, from the governor, we can be that excellent city once again. When I grew up here as a child, Highland Park was the model city of the continental United States.
Yeah. All right, so together with elected officials, together with some media push and shining the light on the things that are not happening for Highland Park, getting some more national exposure so we can get that help. I think together we can make that all happen. What do you think?
I think we can too, and I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
We're taking our time and we are doing things so we can retain what we develop. We want to retain it. Want to make sure that we do it right out the box.
Got it. So, Mr. Mayor, is there anything else you want to say to your residents before you leave today? Go back to City Hall.
Well, I want the residents to know that I'm here. I'm for them. We're going to return our city to excellence, but we all have to chip in. Cleaning up. When you see something, say something. Our police department, our fire department, we have to work together. We're a small community. We should be one of the brighter communities in this state because we're a small community and we got the best location in the world.
I agree.
Right here at 75, Davison, Woodward, the Lodge, so it's a great location, and I ask the people to come take a look.
All right, wonderful. You heard it from the man himself, our wonderful Mayor, Mayor Hubert Yap. He wants you to come in and take a look at Highland Park, invest, live, work, play, whatever you like to do. We'd like to invite you if you want a personal tour, if you have any questions about it, or you have any interest, you can always give us a call. You can call me at 313-868-0342, and I would definitely lead you in the right direction. Thank you so very much for tuning in, but we have more show on the way with Mr. Brandon Bryce. We'll be right back.
Tune in every Monday morning at 10 for Get in the Know with host Marley B, providing the city of Highland Park news, information, and entertainment. Find out what's happening in Highland Park from the city's movers and shakers. Get in the Know with Marley B, Monday mornings at 10, right here on WHPR. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of W33BY, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Welcome back to your very own TV show, Get in the Know. I am your host, Marley Blackman. Marley B, that's me. I'm also your press secretary for the City of Highland Park. And I have another job. I am your public safety liaison. So when there's a disaster or something happens, I am the person who is supposed to fix it, crisis manager, all that kind of good stuff. So if you have a problem, if there's something going on, please don't hesitate to give me a call at City Hall, or you can call me right here on the show at 313-868-0342. I'm here to help you. I'm here to serve you. So, as I promised, we had more great show. We have Mr. Brandon Bryce. He is a political strategist. He worked in New York under Chris Christie. He's just been in this political game for so long. And I wanted to invite him on the show because there's so many wonderful things happening in our in our country. politically. So, I just want to kind of have some fun with him and just find out where his head is and his thoughts are. Welcome so very much, Mr. Bryce.
Thank you.
How are
Always
you?
a pleasure to come on the show. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for
All
being
right.
here.
Thank
How
you.
was your weekend?
Busy.
Yeah?
Busy.
Did you have a good weekend?
Had a great weekend.
Okay.
We're doing a lot in the nonprofit space here in Detroit.
Okay. And when you say
then,
we, who are we talking about?
just overall getting nonprofits engaged in social causes and raising money.
Okay.
For a lot of startups, and so part of that is also what I do. But the main thing is really getting and trying to get more conservative representation in the city of Detroit.
Okay.
So.
All right, wonderful. Well, you have like a good voice. Like your voice, I get that sometimes about my voice, but it's like my voice is a little softer.
Okay.
Yours is like this deep
No. I mean that's what a lot of money towards private school will do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I spend a lot of money in private school, and
there you go.
my son does not have a deep voice like at all.
That's just the shyness. It's coming back.
All right.
All right.
So,
All right.
so there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Where do we begin?
Well, there's a lot going on regarding now. There's this big trade war
Yeah.
the president wants to push, which is really interesting because the trade war. People say, "Well, I don't know anything about a trade war."
Yeah.
But you do, because trade war is simply cutting the fact that people have to buy U.S. products. And when we say we're going to up the cost, where now other countries are not buying our Oldsmobiles, our Buicks, it begins to hit home, because now you're talking about, well, if people aren't buying products, what does that mean for the job future of Detroit? Then also, in addition to that, you've got the gun control debate.
Yeah.
Where now, it's getting to the point where youth are starting to say it's time for Congress to act and actually enforce the laws on the book. That everybody does not require or need a handgun or have access to a firearm. Then, now you're talking about, now you've got China, which is saying that for the first time in Chinese history, that now they're saying, well, we're going to have a president indefinite. And now Trump says maybe the U.S. needs to have that. So it's a lot of interesting things in Congress. And my personal issue is I think we've got too many congressmen in D.C. that are too quiet.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So what should they be saying?
Well, the bottom line is Congress does not work for the president. They work for the people.
Absolutely.
And so first of all, it's to represent your district. But it's interesting because now we're not only seeing that at the federal level, but now we're seeing it where, you've got now the gubernatorial events are happening where Michigan is possibly going to have a new governor in 2018. That's a factor. There's been talks that now, Duggan's future may also be changing soon. So it's a very interesting time for American politics, but it's important to make sure people are voting the right way. And I forgot that we've got a major congressional race coming up right now for the 13th congressional district.
So we have that. We have governor.
Yep.
There's a lot. So let's start. We have
Okay.
the world to deal with, but then we also have
State and local.
a state local.
That's right.
That's
That's
right.
right.
So let's start there. So
Okay.
I want to start with the governors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of interest. It's very diverse.
It is.
Very diverse.
It is.
What do you think about some of our candidates?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think so. There's been a lot of talk. Gretchen Whitmer is kind of the front runner.
Uh-huh.
The challenge is that many Democrats are not sold. And it's interesting because many people are saying that this gubernatorial race is a repeat of the Hillary campaign, where they're saying we've got a lot of other candidates who are not getting the press. They're not getting a lot of the money and financial support. And basically, many Democrats have expressed that they felt that her candidacy was being forced down the party's throats. That's a challenge. On the other side, though, we've got Schuette, who's kind of in the lead, but he's been an ally to a very unpopular president. And so now it's the catch, is Michigan going to go with, a woman who is an attorney but may not necessarily be the favor of the party? Or are they going to go with an attorney general who many have criticized for playing politics?
So everybody else just kind of falls
If you
at
can't,
the wayside.
if you can't raise, this at the end of the day, whether you're talking about the gubernatorial race or you're talking about the congressional race, it's going to come down to how much money can you raise.
So what do you think about El Said?
It's going to come back to how much money can you raise.
I love it.
No. But El Said is an interesting candidate because I think he represents kind of a Bernie Sanders-ish change. I'm not sure. Michigan, at the end of the day, is still a very conservative state. And so the question that I would challenge is, well, can he win when you're talking about Grand Rapids up north? Michigan is a very red state. And once you get up in, the Escanabas and the Petoskey's, they're not very open-minded.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. How many of those people vote?
Well, they vote, but most of those people are, they're pretty conservative. When you think of an El Said, if this were California or New York, people would be a little bit more progressive. Michigan, like Ohio, like North Carolina, is still a very conservative state. Okay. And I'm not sure in this day and age with DACA and all of the other issues, they're going to take a chance.
Gotcha. So, all right, we're going to take a break because I want to dig a little bit more into some other fun stuff. I want to talk about, we're going to flip it a little bit from politics, but we're going to talk about Kobe and the Oscars and some things that, I don't know if you're aware of all of that, but we're going to talk about that and just some other things that's happening. We're going to definitely talk about the gun control and what happened in Florida. And what do you feel about teachers being able to carry guns in the schools? I want to talk about that as well. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned and stay locked into a very great show. As always, we're so glad that you're tuned in. If you want to give us a call and chime in on the conversation, please feel free to do so at 313-868-0342. We'll be right back.
Tune in every Monday morning at 10 for Get in the Know with host Marley B, providing the city of Highland Park news, information, and entertainment. Find out what's happening in Highland Park from the city's movers and shakers. Get in the Know with Marley B, Monday mornings at 10, right here on WHPR. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of W33BY, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
TV show Get in the Know. I am your host Marley Blackman, Marley B, that's me. I'm also your press secretary for the city of Highland Park. Joining me today is Mr. Brandon Bryce, political strategist and the only black Republican I know.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Choices. And
I'm not mad at that, only because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, and you know, at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars and cents for me.
Right.
So from a tax standpoint, you know, just that works. So anyway, your views though are just a little different.
Just a little
different. And I joked about having you on and that we're gonna just have this huge debate on air.
Right.
But you know, I'm gonna take it easy because I haven't seen you in a while. I'm not gonna. I don't want to argue on camera with my viewers. But you know, some things that's happening in the world that I could never imagine growing up as a child, like having to, like going to church, going to school, and going home were like the three safest places in the world to me as a child. Feeling protected. Church, not so much anymore. School, not so much anymore. Home, not so much anymore. So it's like, where can you be protected as a child? So they're talking about letting teachers go to school armed with weapons. And could you imagine? Do you have kids? Do you have kids? Okay. Well, I do. I couldn't imagine my son going to school to be taught an education, and his math teacher has a Glock underneath his suit jacket, and they see it. I don't understand that. What are your thoughts about that?
So, a couple things. I think we're in a different day now where we've got to really add some major questions.
Yeah.
You don't need Tech Nines in Detroit or in an inner city. Schools, when you think of, schools should not be gun ranges. And so I think one of the challenges is that, what's interesting in this whole debate is DPS and Chicago and Baltimore have had metal detectors in their schools for the last 30 years.
I mean, I had metal detectors in my school.
But here's the interesting thing. Now the suburban communities are starting to get a little dose of reality. And so instead of arming teachers, my thing is just enforce or actually put metal detectors in your schools. They work. And I can tell you what's interesting is we've already had these laws on the books.
Yeah.
But for some reason, people with mental illness, which is a major issue because most of those folks are crazy, they are still getting access to firearms. And I think that's a very dangerous thing where the NRA has really got to do some soul searching to say, hey, do we want to continue to become the culprit in these kids' deaths? And I think right now what the students have done down in Florida is historical because now they're saying the parents have not done their jobs. The politicians have not done their jobs. We're going to go to the Capitol and actually demand gun reform.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So it's interesting that it's just interesting that that someone can wake up one day and say, I'm going to take someone else's life.
Yep. I mean, part of it, Marley, is you've got the issue when you talk about gun control.
Yeah.
We have not done a good job as a nation addressing mental health. And the thing is that mental health, everybody has a case of mental health. You may be crazy, I may be crazy. Folks we know might be crazy.
Yeah, I think you are a little crazy,
but that's okay. But I'll admit to it.
I won't hold that against you.
I'm admitting to it. But the thing is that the conversation on mental health is crucial.
It is.
Because, the FBI, let's go back to a couple of the scenarios. The FBI said they had watched this last shooter for the last 2 years.
Right.
That should have been an indication something's wrong with this guy.
Right.
And so, the fact that law enforcement is waiting until something happens.
I don't get that.
To do something about it.
I don't get that.
To me, that should be a lawsuit for an attorney who wants to take that case because they're saying we, in a sense, knew about it and we did nothing. And so mental health has to be addressed. But the other part of that is, we've got to get real about gun laws. They should not be selling military weapons in the streets, at gun shows, at trade shows. And they still continue to do it because there's a big business behind it. And so the NRA is going to have to, in some cases, eat some crow. And for the record, I am a strong believer in the NRA rights, especially if you are a minority in America, specifically African American. Gun laws is a very sensitive topic for us because we've kind of had a love-hate relationship with it.
Yes.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Condoleezza Rice mentioned that when she was a little girl growing up in Alabama,
yes.
The Bull Connor at the time, who was the governor, did not want to see minorities arm themselves. Black Panther Party was another movement that really understood the importance of having access to a firearm to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah.
So I agree with that, but I think when you're talking about automatic weapons, specifically those weapons that at the drop of one shot can shoot multiple people, we've got to have some real conversations about the future of that in our country.
We do. Not only do we have a caller coming in too, not only do we have to have some conversations, I'm really tired of the conversations. Yeah. We have to implement some action. Yeah. So let's take a caller.
Sure.
Hi, caller. You're live on the air with Marley B. and Brandon Bryce. How are you? Hello.
You felt safe?
I'm sorry. Sorry, didn't hear you. Can you start over? How are you?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can. Welcome to
Okay,
Getting
I'm
the Know.
sorry.
Yep.
I heard you say that when you went to school, you felt safe, but now it's a different day. That's one conversation. The other conversation is, and we haven't solved that conversation, why is in America the only country you have that type of mental illness? And now if we don't solve that question, I don't think we're going to solve the killing. But in the meantime,
You're right.
wouldn't it be better if we made schools safe, like a detective, a guard sitting at the door, and so the killer can't come in.
So you're discouraged
And then
to do
we
something.
solve because if we don't solve the question of killing in the schools, the killings that's in black communities across this country, if we don't understand those causes, it's going to be killing if they use propane gas, whatever. So if we got to look at the cause in a capitalist society to find out why in this capitalist society, most advanced in the world, why is this mass killing in the schools, and why is the killing in the black communities across this country? If we don't understand that, I think your question comes, when you went to school, you felt safe, but now it's not. But in the meantime, don't y'all think it's better to have safe schools?
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for calling in. I'm always thankful when the viewers call in there because they're watching the show and they give their opinion. And it's important to have safe schools. I mean, I go to a mega church, and sometimes I'm sitting there and we have guards placed strategically around the church because. But who'd have thought someone would have the courage to come into God's house and shoot up the church?
Well, unfortunately, everybody doesn't believe in God. But
no, I agree.
But the caller hit on a very interesting point when he talked about, what's interesting is there are actually more registered firearms in Canada than there are in the United States for hunting reasons. The challenge is that there are firearms, not automatic weapons. And I think that's the real conversation here is that the NRA, once again, has to take strict precautions to start to say, why are we selling machine guns
to an 18-year-old or to
anyone, either non-law enforcement or non-military?
Exactly.
I just don't understand
Why is that okay? I agree with you. And you're right, caller, that and to your point too, schools need to just equip themselves and stop waiting for something to happen, or stop thinking that, you're in a more affluent neighborhood and nothing's going to happen to your school. You just have to take more precaution and just protect the babies, protect our kids.
Marla, you bring another point is we've got to get back to not only guidance counselors but social workers being back in the schools.
I agree.
Because the bottom line is somebody knew, whether it's the student, the teacher, the principal, somebody knew these folks were crazy and they did nothing.
Yeah. I agree. But do you think that they did nothing because they don't know what to do?
Well, first of all, let's start here. So the fact that the FBI, first of all, the FBI, for them to say publicly, with all their shenanigans right now dealing with the administration, for them to say that they have watched this guy for months and years tells me that there is a major flaw in our judicial system. Because the bottom line is for you to wait and then for something to happen, now the question for those parents who unfortunately lost their children should be, you are the ones to blame because you knew something and you did nothing.
Absolutely. Sounds like you really want a lawsuit to happen here.
Well, no, but it's not about a lawsuit, but it's about the fact of, the mayor said it when he was here earlier, if you see something or you hear something, say something. Bottom line, it could save a life.
That's right.
It could save a life.
That's right. That's very true. All right, so I want to talk about just kind of moving off of that because we're coming close to the end of the show. But I want to talk about Kobe Bryant won an Oscar last night. Yay! I am excited about that. But his opening thank you in his thank you speech, he said, "I don't," something to the fact or the point of, I'm good at more than just dribbling the ball, shutting up and dribbling the ball, because someone made a point about just shut up and dribble the ball. He won an Oscar. An Oscar. So, we all know several years ago that Kobe was allegedly reported to have done some sexual harassment things, and so he was acquitted. No charges were filed, and he didn't do any time or anything. It just kind of went away.
Right.
But because he made that statement, the headlines said Kobe Bryant wins Oscar despite his sexual harassment allegations. That happened so many darn years ago.
So unfortunately, you said that he was acquitted and that was the end of that. But unfortunately, social media, that's not the end of that. And, it's funny when you kind of start getting into the whole sexual harassment and Me Too. Jimmy Kimmel made a very interesting analysis last night when he talked about the Golden Award, where the guy is holding his hands crossed, and he's talking about the statute of limitations, talking about this whole Harvey Weinstein issue. And what we're seeing now is that, unfortunately, African American men are held to a much different standard than their white counterparts, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment.
Absolutely.
And I think for Kobe to say that was a big message to America, that African American men, one, don't get the same treatment that their white counterparts get, and two, that they are much more talented than dribbling a basketball. LeBron James had a similar incident with Fox News anchor Laura Ingraham, where she said, "Who does this guy? This guy doesn't know anything." She basically rebuked him. And keep in mind, LeBron James not only is a basketball player, he's an entrepreneur. He's sent hundreds of kids to college. He's done some amazing things, and so it was really out of place for her to say that.
So, okay, but that's not my point.
Okay.
My point is, because he said one thing, why couldn't his headline just be, Kobe Bryant won an Oscar?
Shock value, doesn't sell. That's it.
Kobe Bryant won an Oscar. Why can't it just be Kobe Bryant won an Oscar and be done with it? But but then you have to add despite.
Right.
Something that he didn't go to jail for, he didn't, whatever. That happened so many moons ago. That shouldn't be right. That is, as a press secretary.
Right.
It is my job to make sure that the media is doing their job in respect to telling the story properly.
Right.
You're not just getting ready to say and do whatever you want to do, because I'm going to hold you accountable. Yeah. And so, really? Do you need to sell papers literally I think you could have sold just as many papers by saying Kobe Bryant won an Oscar.
But it goes, it's funny. We talk about Donald Trump and all the crazy things coming out of Washington, but it goes back to that fake news component where this guy, that case was 7 years ago, almost 10 years ago, yet they still reminded you to say, well, perhaps he was not good enough to get an Oscar because of something that happened years ago that the court of law, the highest court in the land, said was either not true or he was not held accountable for. Think about that for a minute. So what it's saying is that, media does try to pick and choose its winners and losers. And unfortunately, the fact that they brought that back up really tells you that there is a bias in the media.
Oh, absolutely.
Period.
We don't have to discuss that. We
Period.
all know that.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
For sure. And so this year's Oscar was 90 years,
Yep.
celebrating
Yep.
90
Yep.
years.
Yep.
It took 90 years to see as much diversity. Did you? From the commercials to the people that were presenting, to some of the nominees, to Mary J. Blige performing, Taraji P. Henson, excuse me, introducing her to, my God, 90 years to show diversity. We have to, you know, it's interesting. We just have to do better as a people. We have to, and I think as a race of people, we have to demand more, to expect more.
I agree. You know, it's funny. You talked about the Oscars, and I'm going to divulge into the Black Panther film because I'm not sure. First, I saw it 3 times, but I'm not sure that non-African Americans understood the power of why that film is continuing to make so much money in the media.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Most people say, okay, well, it was a superhero movie. That movie really was an awakening to African Americans across the globe, not just here in the United States.
Yeah, I agree.
And so it's funny how the media, you know, and I watch the media feeds, and they'll say, well, it's almost a shock that the media can't believe how successful that film has become.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, unfortunately, I knew we would have a blast just kind of chopping it up with my good friend Brandon Bryce. It is that time of day. It's the end of the show. I thank you so very much for my viewers just tuning in. And as always, if you want me to cover something, you want to know something, you want me to interview someone, and it's affecting your daily life, your lifestyle, your way of life in the city of Highland Park, and you want me to get to the bottom of it, please feel free to give me a call at 313-868-0342, and I will work for you. I work for the people. Remember that. My name is Marley Blackman, Marley B. That's me. I'm also your press secretary. Until next Monday, mwah, I love you.